everything is handled diplomatically, never through violence. Madam Speaker, the issue...
I'm Chair, not Speaker.
Sorry, thank you, Madam Chair, thank you.
Sorry, Senator
that.
Lelegwe, can you come on record? Sorry for interruption. We have another member who has just joined us.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Lelegwe Tumbesi, Senator for Samburu, member of the committee.
Thank you. Sorry for interrupting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The issue that we speak to is extremely important, and it has been a matter that has attracted a lot of national concern, and this is to do with the illegal enlistment of our youth to the special forces deployment in Russia. Madam Chair, if you had me make slip and call you Speaker, is because Parliament, both chambers have been very focused on this issue. So I've been appearing in different committees. Now, let me respond. First, the first aspect of it is to respond to the issue of the Kenyans currently missing, stranded, or otherwise unaccounted for in Russia, and the current status of investigations into the reported deceptive recruitment of Kenyan citizens. I wish to respond as follows. So far, until yesterday, we had 10 Kenyans who have been reported missing in action. Yesterday, this number increased. Now we have a figure of 60 Kenyans. And when we say missing in action, we cannot pronounce outrightly whether they are dead or whether they are captured or whatever, but the figure we got is that they are 16. 38 are currently in various Russian hospitals under restricted access, leaving an estimated 165 Kenyans who are deployed in the special military operations. To date, Madam Chair, 47 Kenyans have been rescued with the assistance of the Kenyan Embassy in Moscow, facilitating their repatriation back home. On record, we have 2 Kenyans, namely Evans Kibet and Macharia Willie Muniu, who are held in Ukraine as prisoners of war. From the records, the summary is that 252 Kenyans may have been enlisted into the Russian special military operations. This number could be maybe slightly higher or slightly less, but that is where we have gotten indication either through family members or through other sources. Let me also put it on record, Madam Chair, that there are about 1,000 Kenyan nationals living and working in Russia. And I would like to emphasize this so that there is no mistake by the media. The ones involved in the wrong activities are 252. But in total, there are about 1,000 Kenyans in Russia. And the breakdown is about 300 are students. And we had a chance to interact with several of them. They are going on with their studies without any difficulty. And then there are 450 other Kenyans who are involved in jobs productive economic jobs, and they're not under any threat whatsoever. So I want to bring this out because the wrong figure has been carried through the media severally. So if we can correct that, it would really help. Madam Chair, let me also just point out for record that our mission in Russia has got only 6 top officers. That is the ambassador plus 5. The others are local staff who are normally recruited, and they are not at that level. But the Kenyan staff are the ambassador, Mathuki, and 5 other officers. It's important to put this on record so that one can contextualize that if the mission has helped 47, we also need to appreciate how lean the team in Russia is, so that it's not seen that it's a crowd of people working for the embassy. It's a very lean team. And to also put it in context, Madam Chair, the size of the Russian Federation is 17.1 million square kilometers. 17.1 million square kilometers. And for comparison purposes, Africa is 30.4 million square kilometers. So Russia is effectively more than half the size of the continent of Africa. Now, the front line where there is the conflict is between 500 to 800 kilometers away from Moscow. So basically, it's either like you're from here to perhaps Mombasa, or maybe from Kisumu to Mombasa, that kind of distance. So it is not a neighborhood. So when the rescue operations and matters are taking place in this arena, I think it is important that we help Kenyans contextualize the size, the magnitude, the distances involved, and it will help to understand the challenge. On the recruitment aspects, let me just point out, Madam Chair, that we came to find out that a lot of these people signed off voluntarily. Some may have been caught up in deception, but they signed off voluntarily. They signed their own contracts. They made those commitments. Therefore, contrary to prevailing reports, majority of Kenyans enlisted in the special military operations of Russia with full knowledge and willingly. The majority of them. They signed contracts to participate either as logistics officers or for combat. The lucrative compensation ranging from 1.5 to 3 million Kenya shillings upon joining, and a monthly salary of 50,000 to 350,000, promise of citizenship, and hefty gratuity upon completion of the contract were major motivation for this process. Madam Chair, salary of 250,000 to 350. Madam Chair, the other thing is that some of these people did not leave directly from Kenya. They were moving through third-party countries. So you would find that some had regular security jobs in the Middle East, and then from the Middle East they moved directly to Russia. So tracking this situation can be very, very difficult because some of them, when they're moving from other places, they could have maybe even altered their documentation and so forth. And some would go as tourists, using tourist visas, and then they engage in other matters. On matters of investigations, we've had a multi-agency process led by the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, supported by other government agencies, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Department of Diaspora, and Ministry of Labor and other entities working collectively. We have on record the arrest of Mr. Edwin Kamau Gituku and Mr. Festus Arasa Omwamba, both of Global Face Human Resources, a registered agency, and they were charged with human trafficking in September 2025 and February 2026 respectively, for irregularly recruiting Kenyans and confining 22 others, 3 Kenyans and 22 others, with the intention of forwarding them to join the Russian army. Madam Chair, let me speak to the aspect about the extent of coordination between the Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs and relevant agencies. To some extent, I've already covered that we have a multi-agency coordination process between the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Interior, and of course, the arms that are directed to investigate, like the DCI, working together to try and deal with this. In the meantime, we have also deregistered 600 agencies that were involved in either unscrupulous practices on matters of recruitment. And Madam Chair, in the documents that we shall give you, we shall also make sure that the schedule of these deregistered agencies are also made available to the committee. Now, we went and met. I was in Russia between 15th, 16th, and up to 18th of March, and I was there with Madame Jogu, who is next to me, and we held meetings. We also were joined by the members of the Committee of Defense and Intelligence and Security of the National Assembly, and also labor and migrant, diaspora and migrant workers. We held a meeting with His Excellency Sergei Lavrov, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation, and the following understanding was reached. First, there will be no more enlisting of Kenyans in the special military forces of Russian Federation. Basically, it is not, we are now on the stop list. We have stopped no more recruitment of Kenyans. We agreed to facilitate, the government of Russia should facilitate consular access by the Kenyan embassy to the national official, to the Kenyan officials, or nationals rather, in hospitals, in Russia. So this process will now be facilitated the Ministries of Defense of Kenya and Russia to work on facilitation of voluntary disengagement of Kenyans involved in military operations as per the terms of their contracts. Agreement to expedite compensation processes where compensation is validly due. The two nations agreed on the need for a structured labor mobility framework. It was agreed that we should start conversation on a bilateral labor agreement to create safe and a regular pathway for Kenyans seeking legitimate work in the Russian Federation. Lastly, we also agreed to strengthen the sharing of information to combat human trafficking and smuggling networks that exploit vulnerable individuals through misleading recruitment. Madam Chair, the government of Kenya has also opened conversations with the government of Ukraine aimed at securing the safety and liberation of the Kenyans captured or being held as prisoners of war. However, it should be noted that there are also protocols that handle prisoners of war. So one of the things that we also raised with the Russian authorities was that when there's an exchange of prisoners of war, we would like the Kenyans, we were appealing that the Kenyans who are held as prisoners of war should also be part of the exchange so that they can then now be repatriated, because there are protocols in exchange on prisoners of war. So these are complicated issues that require a lot of diplomatic engagements. On the question of the measures being taken to identify, disrupt, dismantle recruitment networks operating locally, internationally, and the actions being pursued to hold accountable individuals, Madam Chair, I have talked to some of them in terms of deregistering what you might call quack agencies, prosecuting those who are found guilty, who can be proved guilty through the court due process of the law and the courts, and assist. The fourth aspect is what mechanisms are in place for the affected, to help the affected families, including financial, legal, and psychosocial assistance, consular support, and timely communication regarding the status of investigations and efforts to trace their relatives. Madam Chair, the Embassy of the Republic of Kenya in Moscow facilitates the repatriation of rescued Kenyans by issuing emergency travel documents. Since some of them no longer have their documents, depending on how they were, we assist through the embassy so that they can be facilitated to get home. Where there's information, the families, especially those who have communicated and indicated they are people, we are communicating with the families once we establish their next of kin, and we communicate to them on the ones who are alive and being assisted to come home. And if we have sufficient indication that there's a death, again, we will communicate to the next of kin. The State Department for Diaspora Affairs they have a counseling unit, which provides psychosocial support for returnees and to families of those missing or those who may have perished. We also have a program to have structured reintegration for those who come back, because some come back and some are coming back with new skills, but skills that can also be extremely lethal to our own national security. So there has to be a process of reintegration, and through the multi-pronged approach, the government of Kenya is able to be in constant touch with these individuals, or at least to have oversight on how they are moving and what they may be doing. We are also talking, especially when Kenyans leave, the Department of Diaspora always has a pre-departure conversation with them, an induction process to try and guide Kenyans, particularly those who are going out for kazi maju employment, on what to expect and how to proceed. Madam Chair, there's the fifth aspect of the question, and this is to do with the adequacy of the existing laws, policies, and regulatory frameworks governing foreign employment and recruitment of Kenyans abroad, and any gaps that may have enabled exploitation on trafficking. Let me respond as follows. The Counter-Trafficking in Persons Act 2010 criminalizes all forms of human trafficking, including labor trafficking, recruitment through deception. The law provides penalties ranging from 30 years of imprisonment to life imprisonment, and fines not less than Kenya shillings 30 million. The Private Employment Agencies Regulations 2016 under the Labor Institutions Act is overseen by the National Employment Agency that regulates recruitment for local and overseas jobs. They require agencies to be licensed, prohibit deception, recruitment practices, and require verification of job offers. This perhaps is where there has been the biggest loophole, and I know that conversations are going on in Parliament on amending the labor migration laws to make them stricter, to be able to curb some of the vices that we have been seeing. So, Madam Chair, that is one. Those are two pieces of legislation. We also have the bilateral labor agreements, which we are working. Quite a number have been negotiated with different countries, and at the appropriate time, if you will allow, PS Njogu can elaborate on some of these. We also need to flag that Section 55(2)A of the Labor Institutions Act states that it is an offense for anyone to carry out a recruitment business without a license. Section 61 prescribes a general penalty of a maximum of 50,000 or a maximum of 3 months or imprisonment for both. Now, this is one of the very lenient aspects, penalties. And now, taking into account the challenges we see, these are the areas that we might request or appeal to Parliament, to yourselves as legislators, to help in reviewing some of these clauses within the existing legislation, so that we can collectively fight these criminal activities. I wish to point out also that Kenya is a signatory to the 1989 United Nations Convention against the recruitment of use, financing, and training of mercenaries. Kenya is also a signatory to the 1977 Organization of African Unity Convention for the Elimination of Mercenaries in Africa. And we are going the next stage we have sought cabinet approval for us to accede to this and then forward the documentation to Parliament for formal ratification pursuant to Article 26 of the Constitution of Kenya, so that we can completely consolidate this position and have this as treaties so that they are firmly embedded as laws of Kenya. Both these conventions categorize mercenary activity as a serious crime of grave concern to all states, thereby obligating state parties to prohibit and prevent the recruitment, use, financing, and training of mercenaries within their territory. I think this is very important even for the media to understand that there are international conventions. We are signatories to them. We want to have them processed and ratified through Parliament so that it becomes very clear that we want to be responsible members of the international community as the Republic of Kenya. Furthermore, Madam Chair, Section 68 of the Penal Code, Cap 63, criminalizes the enlistment service or training of Kenyan citizens in foreign military or armed forces without the written authority of the President. Madam Chair, what these Kenyans have been doing has been in breach of the law. They have broken the law. They are engaged in an illegal activity. However, the point now is to help them get out of the dilemma. And it's through this window that the government is saying that there's an amnesty. Get out of that difficult situation before it is too late. Don't engage in it, because going forward, the correct thing for the government to do, other than empathize, will actually be to enforce the law and have these individuals prosecuted, because they are engaging in an illegal and criminal activity. Over and above that, Madam Chair, we are going to pursue the development and conclusion of bilateral legal instruments on mutual legal assistance and the transfer of prisoners and sentenced persons, because not all countries have mutual legal assistance agreements with Kenya. So we are going to enhance this and taking into account the whole aspect of renewed labor mobility globally, it will now be necessary to broaden the number of countries with which we have mutual legal assistance protocols and transfer of prisoners and sentenced persons protocols. So this is another area that we intend to pursue to try and mitigate on this challenge. Finally, Madam Chair, the measures and reforms being undertaken to strengthen oversight, verification, enforcement mechanisms to prevent the recurrence of deceptive foreign recruitments, including public advisories, a verification protocol for overseas job offers, and enhanced safeguards to protect the welfare and rights of Kenyan citizens seeking employment. So, to a certain extent, I've covered some of them, but let me just summarize. To date, we have deregistered over 600 non-compliant or rogue private recruitment agencies. We are appealing to Kenyans that it is important before they engage, they they consult with the Diaspora Placement Agency, they consult with the National Employment Authority, because these institutions are public institutions and they are there to serve the Kenyans and to help them understand the terrain that they are about to enter into. Madam Chair, the Department of Diaspora has established a 24-hour call center to help intervene and manage this crisis, not just for Russia, but for Kenyans in other countries where there's also distress. As I have said, they go through pre-departure inductions. We have to have continuous campaigns, and we will continue issuing public advisories on a regular basis. We will accelerate and strengthen the negotiation of bilateral agreements to ensure that this can then help Kenyans. So, Madam Chair, let me stop there. But towards, if time will allow, I'll also be willing, or we are ready to also table to this committee 2 additional documents. One will be a document we want to submit to you about the current situation in the Middle East and implications for Kenyans in that region. I think we believe that this time we should be proactive. We should not wait for you to summon us. So we will make this available to you in advance. We also want to make available to you, because this is interconnected, a report on the recruitment of Kenyans into the Golden Triangle. It's actually a misnomer. They call it the Golden Triangle, Madam Chair, but this is the border region where Myanmar, Laos, Cambodia, and Thailand meet along the Mekong River. And this area has turned out to be a hub for human trafficking globally. And it will be important that the committee is also brought up to speed in this space. And we have actually, in the document, outlined the routes, the pathways they have been using, the nature of the exploitation. We have also indicated what the number of Kenyans that have been rescued by the government of Kenya. Because all this people may not be aware of, but if perhaps through your indulgence, rather than go through all the other, let me just go through the numbers, only the numbers of those rescued from the Golden Triangle. In Myanmar, from 2022 to 2026, over 751 Kenyans have been rescued. 615 have been repatriated. 39 were imprisoned in Myanmar for illegal entry and for being repeat offenders in cybercrime. Madam Chair, we help some Kenyans. They are brought here, they use Panya routes and go back. That is how tragic some of these things are. So you help them, you bring them, and then they find their own way back, which means they are now inducted into that process. Some of them, about 97, crossed through Thailand and are now in the immigration detention center awaiting deportation. In Cambodia, the first one was Myanmar, and now in Cambodia, from January to March 2026, 323 Kenyans have been rescued. 234 have successfully been repatriated. The remaining 89 are in the process of being repatriated, as others have continued to be rescued. And this is in data that is with the Department of Diaspora and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. In Laos, 29 Kenyans have been repatriated to date. In Thailand, we have 14 Kenyans imprisoned for bearing forged immigration stamps. And over time, we have 3 Kenyans reportedly who lost their lives in the scam compounds. So basically, what we are pointing out is that this is a very serious challenge and a very serious phenomena, and the government of Kenya is constantly working to try and rescue these Kenyans, some of whom have deliberately found themselves in these areas. And finally, Madam Chair, is to just stress that with these rapidly changing dynamics, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in particular through the Department of Diaspora, has also made an appeal, because the government of Kenya or the ministry can only be effective to the extent to which we are resourced or financed by Parliament. Because this is not charity. These are people who go there and then they expect intervention through the taxpayers' money. Because the only intervention that is available is through public resources. And those resources are appropriated through parliamentary approval, and they are taxpayers' money. So there's no free money available for these interventions. It's Kenyan taxpayers' money. And therefore it has to be a collective effort for Kenyans to collectively talk to each other, that we cannot actually enter into an enterprise where people voluntarily put themselves in harm's way and always expect the other Kenyan taxpayer to be their underwriter. We also need to be responsible citizens by keeping away from these illegal activities. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Prime Cabinet Secretary. I think you mentioned whether PS can give an input. Maybe we just go by what you have presented. Do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Chair. What His Excellency, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, and my Minister asked is for me to give a little more information on the bilateral labor agreements, which are our framework for protecting Kenyans in places that they go to work, especially in places where we have large numbers working. As things stand, Chair, we have at the national level 6 agreements signed between Kenya and Germany, Kenya and the UK for healthcare workers, Kenya and Austria, Kenya and Qatar, Kenya and Saudi Arabia, and Kenya and the UAE. We also have other slightly next level agreements signed now by our Ministry of the State Department for Diaspora Affairs with the state of Nebraska, with HOPS Labor Solutions in the UK for the Mkulima Maju program, with a large recruiter in the Channel Islands of the UK, with the Chamber of Commerce in Nuremberg in Germany, and with a large recruiter in Canada. The purpose of these BLAs, Chair, are to structure an engagement between two governments on how to carry out ethical recruitment, but importantly, they form a critical part of our protective infrastructure for Kenyans going to live and work. They structure both the recruitment pathway as well as the welfare of Kenyans living there. And we use them also for purposes of bringing both parts of both governments together to discuss and to deal within the Joint Implementation Committee to be able to deal with issues that are arising out of that agreement. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, PS, for your presentation and update on what is currently happening on that matter. We will give the first shot to Senator Cherargei, who is the owner of the statement, so that he can be able to ask for further clarification where necessary. Then we can bring on board other members to have their intervention. Senator Cherargei.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, PCS, for, I know this is a very complex issue because it goes beyond Kenya. Bwana PCS, I want to confirm he's my neighbor. So, Mwami is my neighbor. We border each other. He comes from Vihiga and I come from Nandi. And of course, he has a number of many relatives in Nandi. Bwana PCS, a communique by the European Union Parliament on 12 March 2026, and you will give me indulgence because I want to ask a number of questions so that you can answer. A communique by the European Parliament of 12 March 2026, since you have highlighted your visit to Russia and your engagement with the Minister of Foreign Affairs in Russia, the report that was in European Parliament indicated that Russia was using deceptive recruitment tactics and coercion to recruit thousands of foreign nationals from different African states, and was also recruiting individuals from Cuba and South and Central Asia to sustain its brutal and provoke and justifiable illegal war of aggression against Ukraine. This is on the answer of European Parliament on 12 March 2026 that was tabled. My concern when you engage with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, did at any point that the Russian government as a government participate in recruitment of men and women who will be taken to fight the Russia-Ukraine war or any other war in that region? Because if a parliament of that magnitude has come up with information that the Russian government is, I know, discussing a friendly nation, but can you give a comment on that? Number two is you have said 1,000 Kenyans are living in Russia and you interacted with some of them. But my only concern is that 750. So even if you have to add 250, they are still, it becomes 1,002. So how many Kenyans are really in Russia? That will be my number two questions. Number three, Waziri, you have said in your statement that there are 3 Kenyans who have died. But Waziri, in media and many other forums, because we are the people representatives, we normally see even Kenyans burying banana leaves, doing mock burials. How many has it been reported? Since you have indicated you have a coordinated engagement between your ministry and other agencies, including the Ministry of Interior, Diaspora Affairs, and of course your Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So what is the number of Kenyans that have died? Because you have indicated they had 3. And on this issue of reported missing Kenyans, as a ministry, as of today here in Nairobi, do you have a distress call center for families who have reported missing kin in Russia? Because we see most of them addressing media as if media is a distress call center. Can I work to Ministry of Foreign Affairs and courtesy your office, you can say these are a number of Kenyans that have been reported missing in Russian war, and how many are they? Chair, number 3, are there Kenyans fighting in Ukraine apart from Russia? That will be number 3. Number 4, which I agree with you, is in 2023 there was a repatriation policy. And in that policy, Waziri, there was supposed to be an established fund called Kenya Migrant Workers 2020 Migrants Fund that was supposed, of course, you have talked about mutual legal assistance, you have talked about funding, you have talked about evacuation plan, you have talked about sanctuary centers and distress call. You have only indicated that you need resources from Parliament. Yesterday evening, the National Assembly passed supplementary budget. How much do you need? You need to give us numbers. You know, other things can lie, but numbers don't lie. So how much do you need? Not only for Russia issue, we have seen Middle East issue. You have talked even about cyber or internet slaves in Cambodia and other Laos and other region. And you have to know, just for your information, that Cambodia gets illegal $16 billion over this scamming online, where it involves even issues of online sexual exploitation of children. So how much do you need? Because I know after Russia, I'm happy you have noted that the issue of Middle East, you have given us an advance attention of your ministry, which you are proactive, and we are very grateful, because we don't know how that war will escalate to which level. Because you know, Donald Trump says this thing today, the following day is other things. So in these Kenya migrant workers, this fund that was established in 2023, how much has it been allocated? And how much, for example, Waziri, you have to appreciate that we just concluded parliamentary budget policy statement. Is there a specific amount? And I saw you addressing National Assembly yesterday during question time. How much, so that Kenyans can know that either you are underfunded or you don't have enough resources to address those challenges. The 5th question, Waziri, is there a signed agreement when you went to Russia, between Kenya and Russia, on non-recruitment of Kenyans, or was it a gentleman's agreement? Is there, or are you able to engage with the Minister of Foreign Affairs and there is a document that says this is referral, or maybe, you know, in diplomatic circles and what have you, what was the final outcome? Is there pen and paper that were put to ensure that the issue of immigration is once and well sorted? Finally, on the issue of foreign fake recruitment agencies, and I'm happy you have noted there are 600. We have been having a lot of war with National Employment Authority. They argue that if you want to know if they're active, you go to online. Now, the government has come up with a good proposal of Kazi Maju through bilateral labor agreements, which is in place. But you still find Kenyans being duped. I don't think, are Kenyans easy to dupe, or is it the frustrations of economic constraints? Is it the attractiveness? Because I have seen, you have indicated that the lies they are being told is they'll get 2.5 million or plus per salary per month or bonuses. These 600 you have said they have been registered. Is it published anywhere? And is there a way, because you work with colleagues in the cabinet, that these individuals do not change their faces and come up with other recruitment agencies like the one you have arrested? And I'm happy and I want to congratulate you for that proactiveness in terms of ensuring these people who are duping Kenyans to go to Russia. What are you doing as a cabinet, and more so you are chief of cabinet ministers? What strategies you have put in place? Because there is also a time bomb. Your peers will tell you and the media will tell you every week there are at least a number of Kenyans who have been duped. I saw even a story in Kisii where somebody was being lied he will be taken to Middle East, but the plane ended landing in Tripoli, Libya, and they cannot go to Middle East, they cannot come to Kenya. So what is, let me be very specific. You know, we have an IS, and there is a vetting process before an agency is given opportunity to recruit. What are you doing to ensure that NIS, National Intelligence Service, and even National Security Council are aware that there are people who are taking advantage of Kenyans, whether through corruption in National Employment Authority, whether in Ministry of Labor. What are you doing now? You are better because you are the correct person, because you are the Prime Cabinet Secretary, and I hope in future Chair will change it to Prime Minister so that he has executive powers. But what are you putting in place so that your Minister of Interior, yourself of Foreign Affairs, somebody of Labor, is there coordination to ensure that by the time I'm given to be a recruiting agency of migrant workers or the BLS or the migrant Maju process, by the time I'm given the certificate to recruit in this country, I must be beyond reproach like the Caesar's wife, so, or beyond suspicion. So what are you doing to ensure the vetting process is so thorough? Because as Parliament Waziri, we are tired every time. Now we'll finish Russia. Next week you might hear another one from Middle East, kidogo from Cambodia, kidogo from another region, from Uganda, from other places. So how, what safeguards have you put by the time somebody is told recruit? What are you going to do? And finally, Chair, since the PS of Diaspora Affairs is here, and Waziri, you know, since Diaspora now stopped being a directorate, I think now is a department, there are many Kenyans who still, I'm happy you have issued the issue of travel emergency documents. You and me know that, and she knows that, and I think Senator Dulo was on the floor of the House. I think we have gone to Dubai and Middle East, where girls go there, they get children. Because of the legal nature of those Middle East and Emiratis, they are not allowed to be given birth certificates. So what is the Diaspora Affairs Department doing? Because those children cannot travel, Waziri, they are born, they are also human beings. Under Article 53 of the Constitution, the interest of children must be protected by the Kenyan Constitution. So what is Diaspora Affairs doing? And in partnership, I know UAE and other countries in Middle East have worked closely with Kenyans to ensure that Kenyans access, and even the issue of replacement of passports, the issue of, I've seen the ministry is issuing new generation of IDs, the issue of distress to address Kenyans who are either facing issues of legal challenges, especially sometimes, Waziri, I know it's hard to give mutual assistance to people who are maybe arrested for drug trafficking. But these are international and organized crimes that your office of the Attorney General and Solicitor can assist to ensure, you know, we need to behave like Americans. Even if you are accused of drug trafficking in China, you demand chair will be my verification.
Thank you, Chair. A Prime Cabinet Secretary, I think maybe he had clear his first. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll get the assistance. but also I have no proof. Because on the Russian side, our embassy sent out details even on the website. And how we got to know some of these individuals is that their family members now started sending messages, because the ones in the combat field, it's very difficult for them to communicate. But we started learning through their families from the initiative of the embassy. In terms of the resource package, we had put in a requisition for an additional 400 million in the event, particularly in the event that the Middle East crisis exerts extreme pressure, because then it might call for a more aggressive approach to try and assist Kenyans. So we had made this proposition to Parliament as to whether it will be granted. We'll wait to see through. But going forward, clearly with the global dynamics, these are issues that we are now talking with Treasury and also talking with Parliament to try and relook at the budgetary provision for the Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs. On the issue of the agreements, Honorable Madam Chair, I wish to emphasize that these Kenyans signed these contracts. And in our conversation with the Russian authorities, they said that these were contracts which in their law are seen as valid by these Kenyans. And the best they could do under the circumstances is to really stop further enlistment. And we requested that we would also be happy that we work towards disengagement of the Kenyans who are already in the loop. But that has contractual obligations. And ironically, in the information we are getting is that for some countries, some of the people there were refusing to disengage. Not for Kenya necessarily, but for some other countries. The ones who are there, they say they would rather remain there. So it's a paradox that sometimes we can't understand, where people are in a very difficult situation, but they don't want to exit, they want to continue being part of it. So I think because there are so many issues, I'll ask Madam Jogu to also intervene and pick up from where I may have omitted some things.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Cabinet Secretary. Just to answer some of the questions, Honorable Senator, indeed there is a 24-hour call center, as our Cabinet Secretary had indicated, and it is manned around the clock. We also do offer a service for walk-in Kenyans within our premises at Old Mutual UAP Tower. That's where our call center and our welfare department is stationed, and that's not just for the Russia crisis, but for every Kenyan with family or kin abroad who want to come and get services. Let me also say that the fund you referenced, Honorable Senator, is envisioned and created within the Labor Migration Management Bill that is currently still in draft form. So that is where that sits. To confirm that indeed the information on agencies that are not in good standing is also available on the NEA website, the National Employment Authority website. And to clarify that the vetting process for agencies that you described, the vetting.
Maybe, Chair, on
board.
a point of order. So PS, you are saying there is no policy in place. So it is a proposal in the bill. I thought there is a policy. The policy on issues of repatriation and assistance to Kenya that was passed in 2023. I thought it's there.
You referenced a fund,
Which
the Migrant Workers
originated
Fund.
from the policy. I know there is a management bill, but originated from the policy.
Yes, so the fund is a creature of the Act, which is not yet in place.
But
What we
Waziri,
have-
I thought it started from the cabinet through the chair. The policy on trying to address issue of repatriation, where this Kenya Migrant Workers Fund was established in 2023. So there is no policy.
The law has not yet come into place.
Yes.
The policy was cleared, but it's the bill where we anchor the fund.
So,
That has not been cleared by Parliament.
so with your indulgence, so you use the ministry's budget, there is no specific fund that when you came even before the parliamentary policy, you requested as part of the fourth heads of the ministry.
No, there's no dedicated fund
Okay.
for this undertaking because there was no budget line about just repatriation, right? So in order to be neat,
Okay.
the idea was to make sure that such a fund should be anchored in the law. And that is how it can then be funded, audited, and so forth. So we wanted to make sure that this comes. And this proposal is now embedded in the labor mobility management bill, which is going to come to the House.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is it already in the house?
There's a private members motion, bill, which is before the House on aspects of labor migration. Okay, there's a private,
Yes, I've seen it.
you've seen that.
Yes.
But over and above that, the government has been working on one, so we are hoping we can have some convergence.
But Chair, my advice is, I hope you should agree, because I think Senator Mutinda, you need to agree early, because we have seen cases where there is a private member's bill and government. Is it possible to agree early, because you and me, this is a very critical bill. And in fact, my advice, move through the majority leader so that it's given a priority and we can pass as soon as possible.
Thank you. I think that's, I'm happy to hear this supportive angle,
Yes.
because we have actually been pushing to see if we can have that convergence through the majority leader and also with the Ministry of Labor, so that we don't have multiple, if we can harmonize. And also with the age.
And Chair, as we go for recess, please, because I think it's almost going to third reading amendment.
Yeah.
So please kindly, if it is possible, Waziri, try and make it as.
I actually have even penned off a letter to my colleague in the Ministry of Labor because they are driving this particular piece of legislation to work closely with the AG's office and the private member.
You are done?
I was going to
Yes.
I was going to speak to the issue of the Kenyans in the Middle East around the issue of birth certificates.
Yes.
To confirm that over the last few years, we have expanded first our diplomatic footprint in that area. We now have a consulate in Jeddah, which is one of the places where we have a large number of Kenyans, and that is extending services, including offering birth certificates for children who are born within in that area and in other parts of Saudi Arabia. We have also done a DNA project in 2023 that was meant to capture the DNA of mothers or fathers and children to support documentation that then would allow us to issue birth certificates, and that was done. We continue to engage in that region. We've rolled out several times now mobile consular services. That is when we offer services across the country without necessarily expecting our diaspora in that region to come to the embassy, but we have offered the services in a mobile way where we do that. To also indicate that we continue to engage that region with much of our resources, but also much of our attention. I agree with you, Senator, that indeed the Constitution is very clear and the rest of our law is very clear about children's rights, and this is something that we take very, 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 very seriously. Thank you.
Thank you, PS.
Chair, sorry, my indulgence. PS, you know Kenyans love numbers. So how this birth certificate, since you started in 2023, if it is not too much trouble to us, which numbers are we looking for projection? If you don't have, then you can request the chair to table, because it has become a very hot issue, especially when you go to Mombasa, where majority of workers, in fact, that matter has come to the Senate since the last session multiple times. So can you give us the numbers, or you might request the chair to give further evidence or those information later? Thank you, Chair.
Just a clarification, you want numbers of
those children that you are likely to process certificates, because I know you love to work with Ministry of Citizen Services or Ministry of Interior.
Yes.
So what numbers are we looking at?
Is the question how many children are born to Kenyans in the Middle East?
No, how many are you likely to
less.
issue? Yes, to issue with birth certificates.
Okay, so we would have to come back to you with those numbers, because it's a service that's offered on request, on need basis. We have to wait
So
for
how
people to
many
come in.
requests do you have? Maybe you are processed as a ministry.
We would have to go back and get those numbers. So the numbers I can speak to is from the DNA
Yes,
project
yes.
of 2023.
Yes.
We did about 707 DNA samples.
Okay.
And out of that, we issued birth certificates of, I want to say, about 116 or 117 children. And those certificates are sent to our embassy in Riyadh, and families or the parents were informed to come and collect those birth certificates. And every single person was reached to come and collect those birth certificates. We had a number who came and collected them, and we have a number that are still resting at the embassy because the parents have declined to come and collect those.
So you are appealing to them to come and pick it.
We have appealed in all ways. We have appealed to them through phone calls, through messages, through diaspora representatives to come and collect them. And this is a service that is free of charge. They really do need to come and collect
Okay, wow.
those. We've also worked with the Saudi government to help in repatriating a number of those children whose birth certificates then came out.
Thank you, because Chair, you appreciate that issue has come to Senate multiple times. So at least we have an answer to the public that at least the process is there, that a number of certificates have been issued, and I'm happy it is free of charge. Kenyans in that area can go and pick their certificate. Chair, I yield back the mic. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Lelegwe.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure whether this question was touched by the many questions from Senator Charagay, but recently the ministry undertook a diplomatic visit on the matter to Russia. Chair, my question is, what was the outcome of the diplomatic engagement undertaken by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs with the government of the Federation of Russia concerning the reported deceptive recruitment of Kenyan youth, and what specific measures, undertakings, or commitments were secured from the Russian authorities regarding the protection, legal status, welfare, repatriation of affected Kenyan nationals. The Prime Cabinet Secretary just informed us that repatriation is ongoing for the 47 Kenyans. We are not sure the status, whether they are here or they are still in Russia, and the ministry is still engaging with the Russian authorities to repatriate these Kenyans. My second question is on the prevention and enforcement measures undertaken by the ministry. What concrete measures has the government put in place to investigate, identify, and dismantle the networks? I know in the detailed response, some of these issues were conversed, some not clear. So what the government put in place to investigate, identify, and dismantle the networks, agents, and individuals involved in facilitating the deceptive recruitment of Kenyan youths, and how is the government strengthening regulatory oversight, agency coordination and public awareness mechanism to prevent further exploitation of Kenyans seeking employment opportunities abroad. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Senator Murgo.
Thank you very much, Chair. To the Cabinet Secretary, my first question is how you can trust the Russian people or government that agreements were made with to not continue to recruit. Russia is sick. Russia is in a problem. How can you trust that Kenyans will no longer be recruited, and yet Russia is looking for manpower to fight? Along with that, how can you ensure as a ministry and also as a country, because we do not know how the Middle East situation will escalate into. How can you ensure that Kenyans going for jobs maju will not turn into fighters in either Iran or Kuwait and all those countries, so that we do not find ourselves in where we are now with Russia. And then on our side, Senator Elengwe has asked a question that I was going to ask. But along with that is, are you sure that there are no part of the ministries like internal and immigration that are sneaking out travel documents such as passports and so on to facilitate the illegal traveling of our people, such that they find themselves in the mess they are in? But, you know, we have, as a ministry or agencies, aided them to go into that mess. So is it watertight situation that we are sure there are no agencies in the migration or internal that is aiding illegal traveling documents or passport or such? And then finally, what is our situation or status with Ukraine after all this mess? When they find out that Kenyans are actually part of the Russian troops that are fighting them. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I'll add mine so that we can finish very fast. Number one, when did the government come to know the current happenings of Kenyans actually enlisted for Russia fight? Number two, there is a report of investigation by agencies where some of the government institutions are involved as far as actually assisting Kenyans to get the documentation and also passing through JKIA without being intercepted. This is a report by DCI, and the institutions that are actually mentioned is Directorate of Immigration Services, DCI, Anti-Narcotic Unit, National Employment Authority. Those are the institutions that are involved. Now, the other issue that I wanted to raise is what time frame are you looking at as far as resolving this issue? Because as you've said, there are budgets involved, and also there are agreements that need to be looked into as far as the issues are concerned. Prime Cabinet Secretary will be very happy if those deregistered agencies are actually put up, so that Kenyans cannot be duped anymore since you have deregistered them. The 600, if you can share with us the information, we'll also appreciate. With the current happenings, I think it is important actually to look at all the agreements that we have with various governments and also various agencies, so that Kenyans are safe wherever they are, and those who are planning to travel, they know that they are engaging the institutions that are safe, registered, and properly vetted by government institutions. Finally, I wanted to ask, as a government, the reason why Kenyans are getting involved in all this is because of unemployment. That is the major problem. What is the government doing to ensure that Kenyans are not getting into such, duped kind of employment that is actually propagated by several institutions? Because sometimes, it's better for you to be a farmer in your farm than being taken to Russia or Ukraine or Middle East and treated the way Kenyans are being treated. What are we doing as a country as far as provisions of employment? I know the government is trying in many ways, especially the Nyota program by the government and housing, housing strategies that are happening in the country. Are we able to do more so that we can be able to attract our own, employment to save our citizen from getting into this kind of trouble? Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. These are very important issues that this committee has raised. First, on the issue of do we trust Russia? The whole principle of diplomatic engagement is that we all have to make sure that there's integrity in our international undertakings and obligations. And following my meeting with the Minister for Foreign Affairs in Russia, I have no reason to doubt his integrity in terms of the commitments that we have made. And over and above that, there are diplomatic channels of communication. We commit through not-verbals, and we also commit in writing to affirm the conversations that we had and the understanding that was reached. So that is the way to go. Now, the second aspect that maybe I want to say here is that it is possible, if we do not bring awareness to the people, that it may not just be the conflict in Europe. Kenyans might also be entangled into other areas. And that is why these engagements are very important for Kenyans to understand that it is an illegal process, illegal undertaking to get enlisted in conflicts the way they're looking at it. I've also highlighted what we intend to do on the issues around mercenary operations, because we have conventions which we signed up to and they're going to come before Parliament so that they can go through the ratification process and then firmly become embedded as the laws of Kenya. So these are very critical areas that will help us in ensuring that going forward, this process does not get out of hand. The issue of our relation with Russia and Ukraine, Kenya is not at war. We are not at war. And these individuals are not there at the behest or authority of the government of Kenya. So we have not declared any conflict whatsoever as Kenyans. And therefore this is not our war in terms of the issues at hand. And this is why we are in this predicament. Because Kenyans have unfortunately and voluntarily entered into contracts on their own. There is no national emblem of the government of Kenya in their contracts. There is no signatory whatsoever from a government of Kenya official to those contracts. It's the individual and the agency they were using. So this is not government engagement. On the issue of the 47 persons, I wish to confirm these are the ones who have been repatriated. They are here, they are with their families. In fact, when I was leaving Russia, there was one on the same flight I was on from Narok. A few days later, another two, again from Narok, were rescued. So they are here. They are with their families. And I think in my written document, we have actually answered a lot of the other. I think you walked in when I had covered that component. But on the answered record, the responses are available and even in the document. As to, Madam Chair, you raise a fundamental issue about time frame. To be honest, we cannot put a time frame to this. It's difficult because we don't know how long these conflicts will last. The one in Ukraine, Russia is now entering the third year. We don't know the one in the Middle East, how long it will take, but we really hope that this can come to an end very, very quickly.
The end I was talking about is for our own case, especially the Kenyans who are in Russia currently. Mm-hmm. And they have been identified that they are in the war.
It's still difficult, Madam, because you see these are people in the front line. And extracting them. As I said, we have only 6 people in the embassy, 6 including the ambassador. This is a military zone. Drones are flying, bombs are flying. And the country is vast. 17,000 square kilometers, and even this terrain where they're fighting is perhaps an area bigger than Kenya or something. So how you will find these Kenyans and where they are, it's a very difficult process. So we cannot, if I try to attempt to answer that question, I'll be misleading Kenyans, just to put it plainly. I'll be misleading Kenyans, but we hope that we can get them out. On the 600, as I indicated, we shall table the schedule of all those deregistered agencies. Madam Chair, we I would like to vouch for the integrity of the immigration and the DCI. There may be one or two bad elements, but if by any chance the investigations reveal that any one of them is complicit in this and this exercise, they will not be excluded from facing the full force of the law. So in any case, it's the DCI that has arrested and helped us to deal with the ones who are already in court. And over and above the ones that are there, let me also put it on record that currently there are about 87 ongoing prosecutions on human trafficking. Not necessarily just about Russia, but even in other areas like the golden, and I keep on saying I don't know that it is golden at all. It's a very dark triangle, but it's a misnomer based on what is going on there. So we have that aspect that we expect them to work diligently, honestly, so that we have no problems. As to when did we discover, it is difficult to be able to put an exact date, but it is possible that maybe this has been going on for even maybe from the beginning of the war, perhaps. But as we said, when the family started sending more distress signals, when we put the website up and we said, if you have any concerns, communicate. This is when the avalanche of communication, because the families had been quiet about this issue, but when things were flaring up, now the family started sending distress signals. And we have been intervening. I say so because 47 is not easy to extract these people from these difficult circumstances. So the mission in Russia has done a commendable job under difficult circumstances. So I think I will cede ground to the PS so that she can fill up some gaps, and then that's it.
Chair, I know we are far spent with time and the other committee. Maybe the last two questions from if you allow, Madam Chair, is the Diaspora Placement Agency functional as per now, Waziri? Is the Diaspora Placement Agency functional as per now? Number two, this will be what is the role in regulation of international labor migration for the protection of rights of Kenyan abroad? Because we know under Article, I think, 26 of the Constitution, international conventions and treaties are part and parcel of Kenyan law. And I know Kenya have signed most of the labor conventions, and we participate even in Geneva and even in United Nations. So what is our role? How do we work since we are signatories of those conventions? Because we agreed, Waziri, that it's multilateral engagements, especially on the issue of labor. And you agree labor mobility going into the future, it will keep growing. Because you and me are aware that I saw the last statistics from Central Bank of Kenya that close to 1 trillion revenue come from Kenyans who live and work abroad, which is a very critical aspect. And I hope, Chair, in future we might even suggest that the Diaspora Affairs becomes a fully fledged ministry, because it has passed my tea from Nandi, it has passed coffee, it has passed everything. Chair, so that is just joking the thinking, but Chair, That's we can. Finally, Chair, if it is not too much, Waziri, I've seen in your delegations you have my former colleagues. Of course, Marir Moy was my senior in law school. He knows I went to law school, and of course, Diana Dokas Marwa, one of your staff, was my classmates. I can confirm, they can confirm I went to law school. But on the issue of lecturers, I can also confirm. Thank you, Chair.
Senator Lelegwe, we need to conclude.
Yes, Chair, I just have one question. Prime Cabinet Secretary, you've just indicated that there are 10 Kenyans reported missing in action, and there are 256 listed. When you are preparing this report, but today when you are presenting the report, you say there are 16 missing in action. Yes, 16 missing in action. What measure, or how do you communicate this rise of these persons, these Kenyans missing in action? I know we are not at war. I've seen in the US, in their current war with Iran, they are reporting daily when they are losing, the people they are losing every day. So are there official communication channels that when this number increases now, like from 10 to 16 or to whatever number, you officially communicate this to Kenyans? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Just out of curiosity, why are Russians enlisting Kenyans? Does it mean they don't have enough officers to go to the forefront of war? Or is it because they don't want to do it, they want others to do on their behalf? Is it only Kenyans who are participating in this war in support of Russia or Ukraine? Thank you.
Chair, maybe on a lighter note, maybe they have been watching YouTube and they have seen Maasais throwing spears and jumping high. So maybe that is, and they know Kenyans are athletic. Maybe on a lighter note than the non-resistance Mawao uprising, maybe they have read those stories.
Thank you, Chair. Let me not be tempted, but I sometimes enjoy the humor from the Honorable Senator and yourself. But let me just point out that first, I cannot speak for the government of Russia. So let me not attempt to wade into a space which they are best equipped to speak for themselves as to why this was happening. But indeed, as I said, there are other African countries that have gotten entangled in this. There are cases of South Africa, Cameroon, Angola, Sierra Leone, Uganda, So quite a number have been entangled in this. And also not only just on the African continent, but in other places. We've heard of North Korea, India, somewhere involved. So it's been a challenge to several countries, but as to the strategic decision of the engagement, that can only be answered by the Russian government itself. On the issue of the number of missing in action or dead, when I was responding to the initial request, we had a figure of 10. By the time I was coming here, I was updating that figure has since increased from 10 to 16. So, and this is the highest entity in the country in terms of representation of the people. It's the legislature. This is a very important forum to communicate this kind of information. What we can't do, because we have to be careful, we have to respect the privacy of the families, but when we are communicating, we may communicate the figure, but in terms of the actual individuals, we have to go through to the next of kin first to convey the information we have. So that is the standard policy that we have. In terms of the unemployment, it is true it's a big challenge. That is why we are trying very hard as a government through the transformation agenda to broaden the level of job creation locally in all sectors, agriculture, manufacturing, in the construction industry, in the ICT sector, so that we can have more Kenyans being employed, and therefore the demand for external jobs may be moderated, not extinguished, because it will not be extinguished. It can only be moderated. Bearing in mind that, Madam Chair, you know, our constitution is very liberal. It allows freedom of movement for Kenyans. They get travel documents. You cannot deny them travel documents unless you have a very specific evidence-backed reason to deny them travel documents. And as I said, some of them leave and say it's a tour they're going as tourists. And then once he's out there, he changes his mind or her mind. The same goes for the ones who leave and then go to a third party country. And once they are there in a different jurisdiction, they can move from one country to another. And the government of Kenya can do very little about that movement. So these are some of the challenges that we face. But ultimately, it's really to work also towards a very aggressive civic education process to be able to do this. And Madam Chair, I've been asking a very fundamental question that we as Kenyans should now ask ourselves a very specific question. What is the economic value of peace and stability? What is the economic value of peace and stability? Not the economic value of a railway, not the economic value of a road, not the economic value of rural electrification, but the economic value of peace. Because now we are seeing that these upheavals are costing Kenyans, and they're costing the international community a lot of challenges. So you may have the best of airports, but what would be the worth of that airport if it is empty? You may have the best of hotels and buildings, but what would be the value of or worth of that hotel if there's no bed occupancy because people have taken off? So these are the fundamental issues that we need to ask ourselves. What really is the economic value of peace? And for Kenyans, I think we owe it to our children and our children's children that we really espouse and strengthen our democratic principles, become a nation that respects the rule of law, so that we do not enter into this kind of dilemma. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have come to an end of this meeting. And we are really grateful, Prime Cabinet Secretary, what government has done and also continue doing. Maybe from our end, as we conclude, maybe you need to do proper vetting of the agencies that are handling the issues of enlistment within the country. so that we don't get into this kind of scenario again, because it's very expensive to the country. Then you need to also seal all the loopholes, the panya routes and the rest, where you really feel those are the areas that are being used. Finally, review policies and legislations that are really necessary, or maybe they are used by those agencies or maybe foreign missions in affecting the work of the ministry, so that everything is watertight. I'm sure the policies have been there sometimes quite a while ago. They need a review, and with the new activities that are coming up, it could be important that you need to review them and see how you can tighten the loopholes that are there. With that, we are really very grateful. For the state, thank you very much. I think the meeting adjourned. And thank you very much for making your time to be with us. Sorry. Maybe closing remarks from you, Prime Cabinet Secretary, if any.
No, I think I've...
You finished?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Karibuni. Thanks.